And we are live streaming across the digital airwaves of Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram. I'm attorney Justin Sterling, a personal injury and business lawyer, and this is Coffee with a Lawyer, your chance to ask any questions to an attorney for free. Just please know that there is no attorney-client relationship, no confidentiality. This is only meant to provide general information and is not meant for specific legal advice. So if you would like to have any specific questions answered, I encourage you to reach out to an attorney and schedule a confidential consultation because we are streaming. This is public and we have no attorney-client relationship and no confidentiality, just for general information. And today we have a special guest. Tony, I'd like to give you the opportunity to ask any questions you may have.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Loud and clear.
Okay. So I'm working on a script for next year. It's going to be a psychological thriller. However, I want to use a character from, I don't know if I said this last week, but I want to use a character from Silence of the Lambs, Claire Starling. And what do I need to do to be able to do this?
You need to
acquire, or because I think it'll be I think it'll be pandemonium, you know. It's a psychological thriller. My manager said that these are popular now for selling.
Mm-hmm.
So I concocted one, and I said it, you know, where Claire Starling comes back in her role, and Jodie Foster comes back in the role.
Well, let me just stop you right now because again, we are streaming, Tony. And remember, my general rule: if you are sharing anything, it must be protected by copyright. That's the only way you can truly protect your ideas. You know, theoretically speaking, the only way is to not share it. All right, you keep it locked up so you know it's protected. But once you start sharing it, such as what you're doing right here with me and probably others, this concept needs to be memorialized in a tangible medium so you can register it for copyright protection, whether it's an idea, a screenplay, a pitch deck, whatever you have in a tangible medium that represents this project, because you are sharing it, because you're attempting to produce it, it should be registered for copyright protection, whatever you have. Okay? So I just want to make that clear without going into details about your project, because I don't want anyone to listen and get inspired or, albeit, steal your exact idea. All right, so let's hold off on going into details. But in terms, yes.
No, you know what? I was logging onto your website on YouTube and it started to play.
Oh, I'm sorry. So.
Okay, yeah, I guess I was a little bit absent-minded there. So
no worries, no worries. I understand, but these are the the legal principles behind it. It can be considered what we refer to in the law, and this is an actual term. It's called the blurt out man. So you want to avoid being the blurt out man. All right, make sure everything is in a confidential setting. And, I just want to remind you that because these meetings are not confidential. So let's just proceed cautiously in that regard. As far as the character, it's a good question. It's a spin-off. It's a derivative, especially if you're using the exact same characteristics of that character. It depends on the characteristics. And if you want to use that exact character, it's considered a spin-off and a derivative from that concept that was already produced. So you would need to get a license, a permission. That's the safest way to go. Now, there are certain characteristics and themes and plots that are known as laissez-faire, meaning that they're just they're general themes, general characteristics, and no one should have a monopoly over that. So it's fair to create a character based off of these general characteristics. But I think in your case, you want to be able to build off of the built-in reputation, the built-in notoriety of the project that was already done before. So I believe your best course is to get licensing permission. So you'll have to research who the owner is of that work. And I would say the first entity you should reach out to is the producer. So Silence of the Lambs, I would look into that project and find out who the production company is. I'm sure it's I'm sorry. I'm not too informed on the producers in the industry. I know it's a very well-known film and I probably should know who produced it, but can you
Brian Pictures distributed it.
yeah,
So,
I would reach out to the distributor, the producer, because you don't really know who owns what. All right. A lot of that contracting is confidential and not known to the public, and it's negotiated quite a bit. So rights are being sold all the time. So you need to find out who the current rights holder is. Someone may have the licensing rights, who's in charge of just licensing certain pieces of the project. So there might be a licensing agent in charge.
okay.
That's something that, as a manager, that's something that you and your manager can work on together. I think you need to come up with a strategy on how to approach it and how you package it, because you do have to sell the idea to them if you're going to acquire the rights. So how much of this project is already developed may be a factor.
Okay.
But it is an issue, and I know you want to start working on this project, but because it's such a substantial part of the project, there is a cloud on it, what we call a cloud on the chain of title. This issue is a cloud on the ownership rights, your ownership rights of this project. So it is something you want to clear up. And I know you want to work on this project and maybe start writing. So it's a balance. All right.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's definitely it. So yeah, I want to kind of do it before this year is over with, so I can start actually writing it this year. I'm doing the beat sheet and the pre-production stuff and the outline and all that stuff right now. And I'm just kind of getting this story down, what it's going to be. And once I get that down, I can, try to have an idea of where I need to go for licensing and rights and stuff like that. Maybe collaboration.
It's a balancing act. You don't want to expend a lot of time and resources knowing that there's a cloud on this, not being clear, and it may never see the light of day. So you need to balance what it's going to take, how you're going to approach it, how you can package the project to whoever you have to acquire the license from as well. And make sure everything's confidential, NDAs, confidentiality. Try to approach it in a professional manner. I know there's a lot of entities that say they will not accept projects on NDAs, but it can all be confirmed up in different memorializations, emails, text messages. So it's just important to make it known that if this project is used, you expect to be fairly compensated. Sound fair, Tony?
Yep.
But it is something I think you should discuss with your manager, because your manager is also informed on the development of this project. So it's something you guys can collaborate on. It's another fiduciary that you can speak to. Your manager is someone who is in a position of trust with you. So I would have these conversations with your manager as well. I do want to acknowledge that Joe signed on, and say hello and invite Joe to ask any questions he may have. How are you doing, Joe?
Okay. I thought this thing was dead with this this book deal.
Hmm?
I had a contract with one company, and they kind of pawned me off to this other company, and so I was going after them. and their website's down. But I just remembered I signed on with the original company and their website's still up. And my contract for the literary agreement, the guy that defrauded me, was under their name. And so now I'm going to take the letter that I had from before and just repurpose it and come back to them and say, look, I have a contract. I signed with this guy. He did fraudulent activity, and I need to make this right. So
Mm-hmm.
I got distracted with the other branch of the company that they sent me to, but the original company with the original agreement is still around. So,
Well, let's analyze this for a second. All right. And I know there's some people watching on the stream. If you have any questions, feel free to post it in the chat and we'll try our best to get to it. So I want to ask first, and again, general information, not specific, no confidentiality here. I know you signed on a little late. I always have to make that disclaimer because we are streaming.
sure.
Date of the breach. I want to also, time is always a consideration. Statute of limitations. I know you've been dealing this for some time now. So there are certain key dates here. When you entered the contract, when you acknowledged the breach, and where we're at right now. Okay, so what are those dates?
You don't have it all exactly in front of me, but
Roughly.
like October, November last year.
Are we still within the 2-year period of when they
Yes.
breached?
Yes.
Okay, good. All right, just keep that on your radar. And each state is different, but generally breach of contract is 1 year to 2 years. All right, written might be 1 year, 2 years for a verbal. It depends on the state. Sometimes vice versa. I believe in California it's 2 years for a written contract, 1 year for a verbal contract. All
I
right.
went into a literary agent contract around October of last year, and then I paid money to do extra work to package my book.
Mhm.
And it was November, December of that year, I got a letter, hey, your book has been accepted by this major publisher, HarperCollins. And HarperCollins doesn't know anything about it. So
my gut impression here, Joe, is that you're going to need to go after the individual no matter what. Whatever entities there are, you want to go after, fair enough, but it is all fraudulent activity. You're alleging fraudulent activity, and the corporate veils are being pierced. So go after them all. Well, whoever you name as the entity, you're going to have to also name the individual. All right? And I think this is just going toward a lawsuit. Because you know how he operates. Open, shut, ghost, open business, shut business, ghost, harmed individual. Open business, shut business, run away. You know? I'm sure you're also not the only one, and I think we discussed before about reporting to authorities and the thin line between legal demands. You're still in that same boat, all right, because you're still attempting to make legal demands. I believe ultimately this is going to have to end in a lawsuit to get anything out of this. All right.
at the very least, small claims, correct?
Small claims, but if you do, yeah, I mean, why limit yourself? You know, and even if you're going in pro per, and I know small claim systems are more easily to navigate for individual citizens. That's why they're there. But why limit yourself? I think this is, you know, if this was me considering the situation, general jurisdiction, name all the entities and the individual, because ultimately you're going to have to pierce the corporate veil. Most likely these entities do not have anything. They're just shells to protect him from his fraudulent activities. So
I think there's a woman involved too. So
name them both. If they're operating together, they're agents, partners.
I'm going to gather all names.
Yes.
Name them all. And I think the first contract is really the one where I entered an agreement with somebody who was in charge of the fraud. So he was at one company, he was at the other company, but the original contract is really the person that really led me down this erroneous path.
Well,
So I think the original company has more liability than the follow-up company that I got distracted, quite honestly. It's a little bit of a shell game, isn't it?
and it's intentionally. I mean, they are intentionally doing this to you. Again, it's about how much
Makes it evil.
yeah, how much energy and resources do you want to put into this? They are counting on, their strategy is to keep doing this to you until you just stop and go away. Your recourse is in the court. It's now you got to consider, how much more do I want to do this, or do I ultimately want them to get called into a venue where they have to respond?
Now, before I take it to court, I need to write a letter to them making a demand.
You
Correct.
do no, you do not. In fact, I mean, you may put yourself in another. Remember, we talked about that thin line between making a demand and committing extortion.
Yeah.
And when
Yeah, I don't
individual,
want to extort them, but I entered a contract with them and I spent a hell of a lot of money for a false contract that originated under a contract I signed with them.
yeah, as an individual, I always advise, tread carefully when you're trying to assert legal rights and make a demand.
I don't want to extort them, but like I went into business with you guys and it went wrong and there was fraud committed in this process.
Well, the ultimate venue where you resolve civil disputes amongst parties in our society is the courthouse.
Don't I need to make a first attempt to contact them and then take it to the court?
No, you do not.
Like to try and measure it, try and resolve it amicably, before. That was kind of how the tone that we set in the last letter.
Yes. And Joe, you did that.
But it went to the other company.
You can still try to do it to the new company if you like. You want to take one extra step, you can.
Put that first step in, like I'm trying to get this resolved. And
I encourage,
like
I encourage clients to first attempt to resolve it outside of court, only because the court system is expensive and time consuming, and duties and obligations are triggered on you as a private citizen who reached out to the court for assistance. You can't just file and just go away. There are duties on you now by making this complaint. Duties are triggered. Time sensitive civil deadlines are triggered. So I encourage people to take that next step before jumping into the civil realm, just to, as a cost saving expense. Just because I know the situation here, I know you've attempted to do that.
I did with the other company, but I did it with company number 2, but I didn't do it with company number 1. Now up until this morning, I was thinking this thing is through. They're out of business. Their website's down. But then it's like, wait a minute.
Joe, I think in your situation, you should have a complaint drafted. And this will also protect you from any extortion, all right? Because you're saying, let's resolve this, or please see the allegations. Refer to the draft complaint that will be filed, all right?
Yeah.
So, and it also conveys to them that you're ready, you're prepared, you're informed, all right? But I would clearly label it draft. Make sure you include the language in your legal. I like to call it a request for resolution. Don't even call it a demand. A demand has a connotation behind it. Like, who has the right to demand anything? Nothing's been determined. This is only a good faith request to resolve a potential dispute.
Right.
How are they going to say you're trying to extort them? I'm coming here in good faith and clean hands, and I'm showing you the actual document that will be filed if we can't. I wouldn't even make a money demand, not even an amount. All right. Because when you start demanding specific amounts, then it's like, you know, you're being a little harsh here.
Right.
Although I'm sure you're entitled to it, it's just because you want to protect yourself. It is an adversarial relationship, and what you say will be held against you.
Right. All right, good. At least I got some steps. Like I said, yesterday, I didn't feel like I had any options. Today, I woke up and said, wow, maybe I do have one more option I can pursue.
I would draft a complaint, make sure it's well drafted on pleading in the proper jurisdiction.
Yeah. Okay. So draft the complaint to be filed, like a draft of what I could be filing to the court.
Yes.
And then before that, send a request for resolution.
Yes. And maybe even give them a chronology of all your good faith attempts. Like, what else can you do?
Right. Right. It's cost them a fortune to tank that other company. And, I don't think they want to tank their whole thing.
Yeah. I mean, I don't
All
know.
right, Jeff.
Yeah. I don't know the other.
Guy.
Yeah. Well, fair enough. I think that's good for now, but keep us updated every Monday, 9 a.m. We're here for you, Joe.
I got you on the calendar.
Thank-
Sometimes I'm doing other things on that time frame, but
That's why we understand.
I wanted to at least post you and let you know what's going on.
Absolutely. Thank you for tuning in. And I think that's going to be all for us for now. We're going to end the stream. And thank you, Joe. Thank you, Tony. Take care. Take
I
action.
just want to, wait, let me just do a shout out. I've dealt with Justin before. If you're out there and you're looking for an attorney, I trust Justin. He's not just a guy that's trying to make a buck. He's a trusted advisor. He will never steer you wrong. And I just wanted to make sure that we shout that out. That, look, there's a lot of lawyers out there. There's a lot of lawyer jokes out there. And I just want to let everybody know that Justin's the real deal. So good. He's a good human being. He's not just a great attorney. He's a good human being.
Thank you, Joe. I appreciate you.
Well,
Take care.
Appreciate you too. Take care.
Bye-bye.